can we learn from ants? I mean, even the Bible says, have we considered the ways of the ants? So what can we learn from ants in terms of just getting into that space, having the right conversations and collaborating?
Yeah. Well, I definitely, the caveat I'd give to this is I'm definitely not an ant researcher, but there's some very smart folks at Stanford who are doing quite a bit of work around that. So I just encourage anybody to go look it up.
Right.
But, I think what the thing that inspires me, quite frankly, about ants is that they work in connection with one another. I think some of the research that they're doing really points to how their brains and the neurons in their brains kind of communicate with one another. And I, hold that same theory and thinking about humans as well. And yet, I think there's so much intelligence that we can bring to each other. But my experience in working with teams, certainly in American business, is when we come together in the room to have a conversation about a retrospective or planning or where the company is going, or even what's the biggest challenge that a business challenge that the organization is grappling with. We do so many other things other than voice what we really think.
Hmm.
I think we spend time figuring out, well, what does this person think, and what do they want me to say, and what's acceptable here and what's not acceptable here, and what kind of behaviors will get me invited back to the second conversation, and what kind of behaviors will actually get me excused from the conversation in some way, or shut down. And so I think it's quite very natural and normal to do it, but I think that we just get in our own way and we spend so much time. Ants have this, innate kind of collective intelligence that where one of them maybe not so smart, but collectively they move mountains. They work together. There's no real hierarchy. If somebody's out scurrying around collecting food and someone else is building a shelter, and one ant identifies a need, like it's immediately communicated, and the ant building something goes off and supports the gathering of food. So it's just this collective, together we can do something pretty phenomenal. And I think about the phrase collective intelligence quite a bit. I think our teams are collectively intelligent naturally, but then we do all of this stuff that kind of gets in our way.
They are a very cross-functional team.
Mm.
they've been agile forever.
Yes, they have. It's fascinating.
Absolutely, it is fascinating. Now, when we look at a lot of this stuff we're still suffering from within our organizations, there are, things we're still trying to unlearn from the way we have traditionally worked as organizations, structured our organizations, even when it comes to leadership. I mean, when we go back a few decades, scientific management and all of that, Taylorism, it was all about the leadership having all the answers. It was about leadership setting the direction and, everybody follows, right? We still have that lurking around. In the way, yes, we do. And in the way that we recruit, that is also, certain things perhaps needs to change, because we are recruited individually. We put a lot of premium on expertise. But however, we are being recruited into organizations to work as a team. So what can organizations do much earlier on to make the shift from I to we?
Yeah, I love what you say about that. That we are very much rewarded. We're recruited. We're rewarded for having the answers, knowing things. I see that down even at the smallest of teams, as we're talking about facilitation, and certainly in the agile context, we talk about this notion of facilitating and holding neutrality. And I watch so many agile coaches, scrum masters, leaders, managers struggle with, how do I set direction and do what I think is right, and where, tell the team where we're headed, and then also be neutral and ask people what they think. It